those. Make sure you are fixing anything you made a mistake on so you don't make that same mistake on the test. So domain for both of these were the same. Negative infinity to positive infinity. The range for this first one starts at -3, should be a square bracket, and goes to infinity.
How do you know what to use this
It's included.
It's a filled in dot.
Yes.
That means it's closed.
If you saw an open circle, then you would use parentheses. For the range for the second one, it starts at negative infinity and ends at 4. Close square brackets. Questions on those two? Most of the issues I saw were with the bracket or parentheses. The numbers or infinities were right. For your increasing, that starts at -3 and it stops at 3. We should only be putting the x values. For decreasing, that starts at -7 and ends at -3. And then for constant, it starts at 3 and ends at 8. So most of the issues there were either we didn't use square brackets or we were putting our y values. Don't put y values. And at the bare minimum, guess if you're not sure. Don't leave it blank. Questions on any of those? For the interval notation, this is just using your parentheses and brackets. This is everything less than -5, so below -5. So it would start at negative infinity, stop at -5, and that would be square bracket. For this next one, less than 4, so again, starts at negative infinity, stops at 4, but parentheses. And then for the next one, greater than 1, it starts at 1 and goes to infinity. Parentheses. Questions about those three?
Why is negative 5 always like that?
Because of the equal to. Right, and then for the set builder notation, we did fine for this one. These two we struggled a little bit with. So this one is very similar to one of these. Starts at -4, goes to infinity, so that would be a greater than, but greater than or equal to because of the square bracket. So you could have written it with the curly brackets or without. I didn't count it off if you didn't put the curly brackets. But some of us missed the equal to part or didn't put the negative. And that part you did get counted off for. It's equal to because of the square bracket.
Where is it 3x from?
So this is just curly bracket. So you don't need that part. As long as you had this, you were good. But if you had that part, that was also fine. Because this is actual set builder notation.
Oh, that's Wait, how do you know what way the thing is pointing?
This is, it starts at -4 and it goes to infinity. That would be everything greater than. If you want, you could also do a number line and look at this one. You could also draw in a number line or look up. Right. For the next two, they should have looked similar. Again, you could put this part, you don't need this part, but it starts at -7, ends at 3. These were both equal to, so it will look like this. So some of you had like just -7 less than or equal to 3, but there should be 2 less than or equal to with an X in between. It says, this is saying it starts at -7, ends at 3, and it's everything in between. This one, they're both parentheses, so just less than. Again, if you didn't have the curly brackets, that part was fine, but you did need whatever's inside.
Question.
Yes.
On I didn't put the X, like I did that, which you said it was gonna say an X.
Right, so you didn't have the X in the middle. Alright, so that was worth 13 points. Each one was their own points. Go on to the back. Okay, remember that objective 2 and 3 and 4 are all connected. So maybe you aren't understanding something in objective 2 or 3, look at 4 or vice versa. These should all help you do the same thing. So to write the equation, you need whatever function is given. You need the f of x out front. So f of x equals. This was translated 3 units down, so that was going to be your k on the outside. And 2 units left, that was going to be your h on the inside. So this would have been no a, or you could put 1 on the inside, x plus 2 squared, because this is squared, and then minus 3. And then your 2 points were, did you do both parts correctly? If you start adding in things that aren't there, you get points taken out, so don't do that. Questions on that one? The next one, 5 units up, again, k, outside, reflected across the y-axis. That's doing this, that's horizontal. Which would be inside. So when we write this equation, f of x equals, k is further out, the h goes inside the parentheses, and it's just a negative, squared outside, plus 5. Questions on that one? Again, worth 2 points for both transformations. Number 3, we have now switched the equation, so we should no longer have squares. So f of x equals, reflected over the x-axis, that's vertical. So that would be your a on the outside. Translated 12 units to the right, that's your h on the inside. We have a negative outside of the absolute value, x minus 12. Questions on that one? And then the last one. So x equals, so stretch vertically is telling you what it's doing, it's telling you what type. So vertically stretch is your a value. Reflected across the y-axis, I saw that already, that is on the inside. Because that's not your h value, but it is inside, it's just horizontal. And then translated 2 units down. So that would be 5 on the outside, times the absolute value. We have a negative on the inside, and then minus 2. So that one was worth 3 because there were 3 transformations. Questions on that? Then objective 3 is writing the equation from the graph. One, you have to know which was which. The u shape was your x squared, the v shape was your absolute value. This one had a change in a based on the distance between those 2 points. I see that it's 2. It looks narrow, so that's going to be just 2. It's not going to be 1/2. So you could go y equals or f of x equals 2. Then I see that it moved and flipped upside down. So, sorry, this should be negative 2. Inside the parentheses, it moved to the left 1. So that'd be x plus 1 squared. And it moved up 8. So I'll write those transformations off to the side. So it reflected. It vertically stretched by 2. It horizontally shifted left 1. And it vertically shifted up 8. So these off to the side you do not need, you just needed the equation, but if it helps you write that first and then write this, that's fine. So that question was worth 4 points. Did you get each transformation and put it in the right spot with the right sign? Yes.
What's the negative 2 for?
So that's 2 different things. The 2 is the stretch and the negative is the reflection. Other questions there? And then in this one, I see it's narrow. The distance has changed. It's also 2. So vertical stretch by 2. It has shifted. It moved to the right 3. And down 2. So I need those 3 things in my equation. So y equals my a value, 2, times my absolute value, my h inside, x minus 3, and my k value outside. So 2 times the absolute value of x minus 3 minus 2 outside of that. Questions there? Remember that with these, you could always put this in your calculator. If I were to put this in and look at the graph or look at the table, I could match the points, match the graph. If it doesn't look exactly the same, I know something, I'm missing something. So please use your calculator and double check these. Okay, for objective 4, describing the transformations, there were 2 in this one. Horizontal shift, left 1. And vertical shift down 2. It didn't have anything else, so if you added in extra things, you got points taken off, but that one should have been just 2 points. If you use the word translate instead of shift, that was fine. For the second one, it had 3 things. The negative was a vertical reflection. Anytime you see a negative, not like this, but out front, either here or in front of x, that's a reflection. The 1/2 was a vertical compression. So we shouldn't be saying vertical compression by negative 1/2 because those are 2 different things. And then the horizontal shift, right 3. To give that total of 3 points. Questions on any of those? Yes.
If you wrote VORH on a paper,
That means you put reflection, but you didn't tell me if it was vertical or horizontal. Or you put compression or shift or whatever, but didn't say if it was vertical or horizontal. And then for these, you could have put this in your calculator and then graph it from there and wrote the vertex, or looked at this and found the vertex and then graph it from there. So I'll do both ways. The vertex here, I look at this and I do the opposite, so -1. And then I take whatever the k value is, and that would be my vertex point. And then based on my transformations, I only have 2. It moved to the left 1 and down 4. This is absolute value, so it should just go up 1, right 1, and you can fill up your graph, but you just need 5 points on both sides. Make sure this is even. Don't have your V's and U's looking lopsided. If I graph that, if I went into alpha window, absolute value, and I went into the table, I could find my vertex point and then graph the other points also. So you can do it either way. I'm going to put this one in. Negative x plus 1 outside of that squared plus 3. And then I'm going to go to the table. Find where my y values repeat and find the middle. So at negative 1, 3, write that down as my vertex. And then graph those points. Negative 1, 3, negative 2, 2. Negative 3, negative 1. And then it should repeat on the other side. If you did more than 5 points, that's fine, but you need 5. Some of us weren't reading the directions and forgot the vertex, so make sure you pick the vertex and you graph 5 points. Questions there? When we get back from lunch, you guys are going to take your test.